Rusty. David Dunges is going to offer our invocation today.
Let us pray. Holy God, mighty Lord, we gather once again under the noble banner of Rotary, bound together by our common commitment to be servant leaders, to put what we say and do above who we are. We pray each day that our lives so lived will make a positive difference in the world around us. By your grace and Spirit, O God, enable and empower us to be faithful and hopeful and loving and peaceful in all that we say and do. We pray your continued blessing to rest upon this great state and its leaders, upon this great nation and its leadership in the world. Please accept our gratitude for your manifold gifts by which you nourish and sustain us. Bless us one and all, we pray, in the name of the one who is holy love and peace. Amen.
Thank you, David. You may be seated. Chase Heatherly is on the way up to introduce our visiting Rotarians and guests today.
Good afternoon, good afternoon. We have one visiting Rotarian with us today, Mr. Jim Hudson. I believe he's on his way in. He's visiting from the Columbia East Club.
We do have another visiting Rotarian today. This is past District Governor Rick Moore, and he's in town helping us work on our grant application, our global grants application that you guys will hear a lot more about in the coming weeks.
Past District Governor Rick Moore. Thank you. We have several guests, so if you brought guests, you'll please stand along with your guests.
Hey, I'm Carrie Powers, and I have with me today Michael Driggers, and he is in partnership development with the Columbia Chamber of Commerce. Hi, I'm Carolyn Matthews, and my husband Johnny McMaster is here with me today.
Bernie Maybank, I have 3 guests, Alex Gregg, Tony Denny, and Louis Gossett is on the way.
I'm Kathy Kennedy. I brought my husband Rick Kennedy, who is a retired anesthesiologist who worked at the VA hospital for 19 years, and he's here to hear our governor.
Hello, I'm John Bacus, and I'm so pleased to have my lovely wife with me today. She's a photographer, and she's sitting next to her favorite photographer friend.
I'm Wade Carlisle, and this is my guest, Will Brumbach. Will is an attorney here in Columbia.
Hello, I'm Mike Griggs, and I'm pleased to introduce my good friend and neighbor, Royal Roseberry.
Hello, I'm Milton Moore, and I have our guest today, Josh Ard with the Employer HR Group.
I'm Stephen Creech, and I would like to introduce my guest, Spencer Lindsay. Spencer's a friend of mine. He is an investment broker with Southwest Management. Welcome, Spencer.
Do we have any other guests that have not been introduced yet? All right, thanks everyone. Thank you.
Great to have so many guests here today, and always good to have a really special member of our club with us today who will be formally introduced in just a few minutes. I'm happy to have back Susan Elkins, who's going to be offering our health and happiness course.
Thank you, President Stephen. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, it's a great day to be here at Rotary Club of Columbia, and as many of you came in when I said, do you have any health and happiness notes? Several said, it's just a great day to be here, to be seen, and a great day to always be happy. But we did have a few tidbits that we need to share with you. Our very own Doc Ryle reminded us that we need to give a shout out and congratulations to William Starrett for an incredible presentation given by his Columbia City Ballet at the performance of Dracula in Halloween. Also, Libby Gover asked me to share her great thanks for all of the calls and the concern during her recent thyroid surgery. She's very thrilled to let you know there was no malignancy, no cancer. All is well, so huge thanks. And I'd like to extend my sentiments as well for all the thanks and my thank you for the care and concern you've given to my family during my husband's recent little emergency triple bypass surgery. So he's doing well, back able to walk, and actually made it to the ball game this weekend. So thanks for all the prayers. Now we also want to make sure we keep Louisa Campbell in our thoughts and prayers as she continues to recover from her very serious fall while she was on vacation. So I think Louisa's still at home, so make sure you continue to think about her and let her know that she has well wishes from you. Now some good news that relates to athletics. Michael Collins' nephew, Jake Montgomery, is a student at CIU, and he was just selected as the first team All-American in golf. So congratulations, Michael. So following a great sports weekend, I thought it's most appropriate to think about some health and happiness lessons, some life lessons that we learn from athletics. I know many of you are sports fans and lots of former athletes back there, and I don't know that there's any better stage to learn health and happiness lessons than from sports. So, of course, in football, we had a great game this weekend as the Gamecocks beat that orange color from Rocky Top. So go Gamecocks. Any Gamecocks in the house? All right. And I will not slight the other team because that other South Carolina team in orange is still right up at the top as number 2 in that crimson color. And now for the real message here. Do we have any baseball fans in the audience? Baseball fans in the house? Any Red Sox fans in the house? All right. Now, we couldn't let the World Series MVP go unrecognized in Columbia, South Carolina today, could we? All the way back to Coach Tanner's successors. Many of you know that the division championship MVP was won by our very own Jackie Bradley Jr., right? Go JJ. But then, last night, just happened to hop online this morning and see this unlikely story about a guy named Steve Pierce. Steve Pierce. How many of you ever heard of Steve Pierce? All right. Where did he play? Carolina. But, so a great lesson in resilience and a lesson on making the best of every opportunity from our very own Steve Pierce. Online this morning, I saw this story that said, meet the World Series MVP you never expected. You never expected. Steve Pierce, a.k.a. 2018 Babe Ruth. 2018 Babe Ruth. It says Steve Pierce is 35 years old. He's worn the uniform of 7 teams in a 12-year career as a pro baseball player, including every team in the American League East. Steve Pierce was traded from the Toronto Blue Jays to the Boston Red Sox on June 28th this year. Pretty good for a guy you've never heard of. And he was traded. The trade actually threw in $1.66 million to sweeten the deal for Boston for a guy you never even heard of. Getting the point as we go through this? So Steve Pierce, our World Series MVP, is a very good, out-of-nowhere, feel-good story. So Steve has played for more minor league teams than major league teams But as Steve was quoted in this article, he was very proud of the opportunity. Very proud of all the opportunities he's ever had, no matter where he was playing. And so just so happened last night, he's playing on that biggest stage in Major League Baseball and walks away, becoming one of a fraternity of 63 MVPs, including the likes of Reggie Jackson, Sandy Koufax, Derek Jeter, and then as the article says, the more unlikely guys like David Eckstein, Pat Borders, and Steve Pierce. So while every MVP has his own story, some are better than others, some are more likely than others, and some are the guy you'd never think of, the guy so many teams passed on, the guy who is always thankful for every opportunity. So the World Series MVP you never expected, Steve Pierce, aka 2018 Babe Ruth, thankful for every opportunity, as each of us should always be.
Thank you, Susan. It's a great message there. I'm happy to introduce past President Bob Crutchfield, and we are doing a new member induction today. I have 3 new members to induct into Columbia Rotary.
For those people being inducted and their sponsor, please come front. You know, this is truly one of the most exciting things we do in order to bring new members in, and I think, speaking on behalf of the past presidents, I'd like to thank our president, Stephen Crease, for keeping some of us old guys in the loop. We thank you very much. Today is a great day, and the first person I want you to step forward when I call your name. That'd be Kim Mitchell. And Kim lives at Little Mountain. She is a graduate of New Carolina High School. She's a Sunday school teacher, kindergarten and first grade at Chapin Baptist. She's a diplomat for the Greater Irmo Chamber of Commerce, a member of the St. Andrews Optimist Club. Her personal hobbies and things she enjoys are teaching Sunday school, community picnic, mission trips to Africa, Clemson football games, and other than that. Parents are Clyde and Linnell Lipsy, and she's being sponsored by Terry, our last year's president. And welcome, nice welcome to Columbia Rotary. Next is James Ford. And James lives on Castle Hall Lane in Columbia. He is a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis. He's a graduate, got his BA there, he got his BS at Johns Hopkins University, and he got an MBA at Arizona State University. He is the current president of FMS Consulting, which is a dental consulting firm and co-owner of Garners Ferry Dentistry. Previously a sales manager at Sensor Electronic Technology, an LED manufacturer and project manager at Westinghouse Nuclear Fuel Division. His military was U.S. Marine Submarine Office, USS Cheyenne, Pearl Harbor Strategic Systems in Washington, and he's also a previous member of this Rotary Club. His hobbies are golf and the beach. He's married to Anna, and they have 2 children, Gracie 9, Elizabeth 7. I talked to him yesterday. He said, "Is there anything in particular you want them to know about you?" And he said, "Yeah. Tell them how much I enjoy getting into soccer with my daughter and winding up being a coach, and it's just one of the real thrills in life." A lot of us have been down that road. How about a nice welcome for him? Okay, we got Thoyd Warren, and Thoyd is married. His wife's name is Kim. Matter of fact, we got Kim up here, and my wife's name is Kim as well. He lives in Camden. He is currently the president and the CEO of the Babcock Center. He's a previous club member of Sumter Palmetto Rotary Club. He graduated from Camden High School. He went to graduated from Winthrop College. He's the current president, CEO of Babcock Center, as I said a minute ago. And he's also the former executive director of the Kershaw and Sumter Disability Special Needs Board. Also a past member of the Camden and Sumter Palmetto Rotary Club, which I said. He's a graduate of the United Way Blueprint. He served on many local boards and some state boards as well. His hobbies are golf, football, basketball, working in the church and working with children. His family, his wife's name is Kim, as I said, he's been married for 26 years. He's got a daughter that's 23 years old, a son that's 15 years old, TJ, and have a nice welcome. He's sponsored by our president, Stephen Creech. Sponsored by Andy Walker.
We like Stephen, but I'm
Be sure we got that right. Sponsored by Andy Walker. Okay. Did you notice anything unusual about the people who have been inducted so far? They all have something in common. They're all been sponsored by a past president of this club, or a current president of this club. And that's the way the things they try to get us to do. Sometimes we don't, but we certainly should. You're going to have a fireside chat, and we're not sure exactly what the date is yet, but that's one of those things where you get to learn a little bit, kind of a bird's eye view about Rotary. You get to learn kind of what's expected of you and what you can kind of expect of us. And we need to let you and your spouse certainly will come to that with you. This is a large club. It's a club that you'll actually make up at some other clubs sometimes, and you'll see somebody next to you and you introduce yourself. You ask what club they're in, they say Columbia, same one you're in, simply because of the size. But let me also talk about, Tori, did I get you? Okay. Well, you were looking at me like I might have left something out. All right, well, let me just close by saying this. This really is a great club, and you're going to love it. As a matter of fact, I think it's one of the first things I was able to join when I moved to Columbia, South Carolina back in 1986. You're going to find that when you go through this fireside chat, you're going to begin to learn about things you want to be involved in, and we need to get you involved in committees and things so that you'll enjoy it and be active with us. But we're thrilled to have you here and thrilled to have you as members, and have another nice hand for all that are here.
We'll let you stick around, James. Thank you, Bob. Welcome to James, Kim, Lloyd. We're so excited to have you join our club. As Bob mentioned, I will be hosting another fireside chat. We're coming into the holidays. I don't know if we'll squeeze it in 2018, but we may be looking at January for it. And I would like to now introduce Doug Cochran. Doug is chairing our Salvation Army campaign this year. He's got something to talk to you about.
Thank you, President Stephen. It is my distinct honor and privilege to announce that we are kicking off our partnership with the Salvation Army and the Red Kettle campaign, or we call it the Bell Ringing campaign. And our first days are coming up very quickly here, so if you're thinking we're still in October, why are we thinking about the holiday season? It's just around the corner, and we were just talking about how time flies. And here's another case where things are coming up to us very quickly. I just wanted to put a couple of data points out there, and then put a plea out there for day captains. The Salvation Army actually began back in 1865, so it's been around a long time, doing amazing things all over the world in 131 countries. Here locally, I just want to share a couple of the programs that they're involved in and support, and they're as listed here: Operation School Supplies, Christmas Assistance, Emergency Disaster Services, Homeless Prevention Services, Leveraging Literacy Afternoon, the Reading Program for Children, Meal Service to the Homeless, a Seniors Program, and the Summer Camping Program. So those are just a few of the things that are going on with the Salvation Army, and you can just imagine with disaster relief activities going on, that hits close to home for all of us as well. Right now, what we're doing is we're identifying which days and which locations. We have 3 locations: Greens, Piggly Wiggly on Divine, and also Walmart on Forest Avenue. We have 24 slots right now, 40 more day slots spread out amongst those locations. I've nabbed a couple of folks, and they were very gracious to sign up for day captains, and then the day captains in turn will fill their days. We'll take a look at whether we want to put up another board starting next week, possibly for individual sign-ups, but I'll check with the day captains to see how they'd like to handle that on there. I do need probably about a dozen more day captains. Right now, there's 24 slots to fill, with potential of just a couple more at Greens once we get that finalized as well. So very meaningful partnership, really impacts positively our support of the local community here, and the tremendous good that the Salvation Army is doing out there. So if you feel the burning desire to support us, I appreciate a few more day captains. Like I said, probably need a dozen more for right now. Feel free to call me. My phone number is 605-7572, 605-7572, and feel free to call me or text me and let me know. And I really appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you for your leadership on the campaign this year. If you're not convinced about the power of guilt, try ringing the bell at a liquor store. There's nothing like that. I've got just a few announcements for you today before we get into our program. Please don't forget your cart buckets sitting on your tables to support Alzheimer's research worldwide. Also, as we've mentioned several times, October is Polio Awareness Month, and this is the last week of October, so it's our last chance to take advantage of the district match. So our district is matching any funds given to the polio fund this month up to $25,000 to go to eradicate polio worldwide. So please, if you haven't already and you're on the bubble, see Mason Hardy, talk to me. If you're curious of the Paul Harris status, we can give you a current update on that as well. And lastly, on the table, there's a list of people listed who we don't have your pictures for our website, for the database. And so, we don't have a hard copy member directory anymore. We have our district database. We would like to have everybody's picture. So if your name is on that list, please see Rusty DePass over by the piano after the meeting. And now, I'd like to welcome up Bob Diggle. Bob is our Sergeant at Arms, and while he's standing here, I just want to recognize him for all that he does to make sure these meetings go well. Every single week, he calls the person responsible for the invocation, responsible for fellowship, responsible for health and happiness, just to remind them to make sure we got it covered and to make sure these meetings go smoothly. And with this many people, it's really important that we have that function. Bob, thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Steve. First of all, I want to make sure we show the appreciation for Peggy being here. I don't think anybody's acknowledged her, so Peggy, we appreciate it. It's an honor for you being here today. I did want to mention I joined the club in 1979, so it's taken me approximately 1,600 meetings to have this honor. So it's a privilege for me to introduce the governor today. He has been U.S. Attorney for the state of South Carolina. He's been Attorney General. He's been Lieutenant Governor and Governor. He is the 117th Governor for the state of South Carolina. And I got notified that the 103rd Governor of the state of South Carolina wanted to be involved in this introduction. So without further ado, Strom Thurmond, our 103rd Governor.
Hello, my fellow South Carolinians. It is a great honor to be here today to say a brief word about my friend Henry Doggin McMaster, whom I've known and loved and worked with over the years. He worked on my Senate staff years ago as a very young person and did a marvelous job. But I want to tell you the best day's work he ever did was when he married Miss Peggy. Two beautiful children. That's the way we pronounced it in Edgefield years ago. I'm just going to say one other thing. I wish he had been our governor when I was a little boy back in 1865. Because we had something terrible to come through here. Sherman came through and burned this city down. That would have never happened if Henry had been our governor back then, because 10 days before he came, he would have declared a state of emergency.
Without further ado, please welcome the Governor of South Carolina, Henry McMaster.
52 is just terrific. Y'all, thank you. I brought some stories y'all might like. First, let me say, Doug, I just left Marion County this morning, and we're having our 5th county day, which is where we bring all the state and federal assets together, all the offices in one place, a big hall down there. And we've had them in other counties after the flood and the hurricane. And it's a great thing. And the people that they stream through, they don't know all of the assets and help that's available, but it's all right there for them. It's a great thing. But one of them, outside today, there were 2 groups. There are always a couple of groups. And the 2 outside today with food and cleaning materials and other things for all the hundreds of people coming through were the Red Cross and the Salvation Army. So I thank you. It's a great job. It's making a big difference in people's lives, and the difference between that and a lot of the federal aid and others is this is immediate. And that's what they need. So thank you, and that's volunteerism at its best, and it makes a big difference. I appreciate it very much. I got some funny stories for you. I know there's Rick Kennedy, my friend over there, who's a lawyer. He escaped by becoming a doctor. And there's Joe Anderson. He escaped by becoming a judge. And Kathy escaped by becoming a judge. She's a lawyer. Y'all will like this. This is verbatim. I shortened it down to this a little bit long. But this is true. In 1777, King George wanted a census of all the people in the colonies. In Grafton County, New Hampshire, where Dartmouth College is located today, made its report through the county clerk, who wrote, and I quote, "Your Royal Majesty," 1777, "Your Royal Majesty, Grafton County, New Hampshire consists of 1,212 square miles. It contains 6,489 souls, most of whom are engaged in agriculture, but included in that number are 69 wheelwrights, 8 doctors, 29 blacksmiths, 87 preachers, and 90 students at the new college. There is not but one lawyer, for which fact we take no personal credit, but thank an almighty and merciful God." True story. I found a few more. I love these are from actual depositions. You know, in cases, the lawyers will ask questions and get answers and write it down from witnesses. Well, these came from some actual depositions and actual cases. Now, I'm not saying lawyers are not very bright, but you'll like this. It says, here's the lawyer asks the question, "Now, doctor, isn't it true that when a person dies in his sleep, in most cases, he just passes quietly away and doesn't know anything about it until the next morning?" Here's one question. The lawyer says, "Was it you or your brother who was killed in the war?" Here's another one. "I showed you Exhibit 3 and asked you if you recognize that picture. Answer, that's me. Question, were you present when that picture was taken?" Final one. This is a question of the lawyer to the coroner. It involved a man's death. He said, "Do you recall approximately the time when you examined the body of Mr. Eddington?" The answer, it was in the evening. The autopsy started at about 8:30. Question, and Mr. Eddington was dead at that time, is that correct? Answer, no, you stupid idiot. He was sitting on the table wondering why I was performing an autopsy. Who says it ain't fun in the law? I need to tell y'all this. I recently went up to the Fourth Circuit Judicial Conference in Virginia, and they had 2 of the Supreme Court justices there, and all sorts of celebrated people talking and giving presentations. But the best 2 presentations, the best parts of the whole thing, were one where Dennis Shedd, who's from South Carolina, was interviewing Dawn Staley. That was one. And the other one was the presentation by Joe Anderson, where he talks about the rules of evidence and quotes and shows heavily from My Cousin Vinny. If you ever get a chance to see that, you ought to go watch it. It's just delightful. So Joe, thank you for all that teaching. Well, I'll be brief and try to answer questions for you if you have any. But what I want to tell you is that South Carolina is doing well. And all we need to do is stick to the knitting and do the right things and don't make any mistakes. and we will keep on going better and better. I believe that the essence of prosperity, there are a lot of parts to it: good law enforcement, good education, taking good care of the environment. But the essence, the center core of it is economic prosperity and growth. And without that, you just can't do anything else. And so I'm happy to let you know that just since I've been in office, I've announced 24,000 new jobs and over $8 billion in new investment coming from different places, expansions, new companies coming in. But we've been going up for a long time. But in the last few years, we've gone up faster and steeper, and that's good news for the people of South Carolina. Right now, we have more people working in the last few months than we've ever had before. The unemployment rate is the lowest it's been in about 50 years. And from what I see, our attractiveness to companies around the world is on the increase. So that's good. But what I have noticed also is this is we sometimes don't understand just how good we have it. We sometimes don't understand our true potential. Remember, Robert Burns, the Scottish poet, says something like, if I can anglicize it a little bit, oh, the gift the giver give us to see ourselves as others see us. Well, we often don't see ourselves as others do, but they come from across the ocean speaking different languages, and they come and look at this place and they want to be here. And that's something that's common to all the sunny states, from Virginia on down. And that's where the real competition is today from what I've seen. Parts of Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee. Tennessee got no personal income tax. They're growing. And when you cut taxes, things grow. Also Kentucky, Mississippi, Alabama, I mentioned Georgia. Tough competition with Georgia. They just opened their second inland port, but we have two, and theirs are nothing like ours. Their port is nothing like ours. Those are things that we have besides the oceans on one end and the mountains on the other, and the beautiful marshland and rivers in between. We're living in paradise, and sometimes we don't realize it. But I've read enough history trying to learn what all got us to where we are. And I know that when the kings and the queens were sending the people over, the explorers looking at the New World, they were writing back saying that this was the finest place in all of the New World, this place that we now call South Carolina. So I think we need to understand that. And we need to press forward. We need to step on the gas. We need to understand that we are in a ferocious competition, an economic competition, a peaceful competition with those states that I mentioned. And now is not the time to drop the ball. Now is not the time to hesitate. Now is our time, and we have to keep moving forward and understand that this is the time for us to really set a course that will hold for many, many generations in South Carolina. When you have economic growth and prosperity, a lot of problems go away. I know that from my own experience, domestic violence goes down, marriages go up, divorces go down, drug usage goes down, better education results, better law enforcement results, everything, crime goes down when you have economic growth and prosperity. So we are really on the way up, and we got to keep that going. Now, there are a lot of things, and I'd be glad to answer questions. I know you have some. But I mentioned the ports. Our port is going to 52 feet. We got to about $50 million from the administration just a few months ago, and the barges are out there now. It's going to 52 feet. And this is hard to believe, but the ships coming in and out of our own port of Charleston at high tide, not at low tide, but at high tide, they can get in and out now. They can carry 13,000 of those container units on those ships. Hard to believe. 13,000 of they call them the 20-foot equivalent units. You see them on the truck. Some of them are 20 feet long, and some of them are about 40. The big ones are about 1.7 times the size of the smaller ones. But the smaller ones, you can get 13,000 of them on there. And the big ships that will be able to come in later have 23,000. Hard to believe. If you go up to Greer, that's where the Norfolk Southern line runs upstate, crosses 85, and we have an inland port there at Greer. I was up there the other day for the 5th anniversary of it, and I asked the man, how many of these containers are here? They had 40-foot containers there. I didn't see the 20-foot. He said they had 4,600 of them there. said, how many of those containers can go on one of those ships that come into Charleston? He said, of the 40-foot variety, 7,600 and something. Hard to believe, but that's what we have, and that Norfolk Southern track goes right through Gregg, crosses 85, so the truckers can bring the loads down, drop them, and pick one up and keep on going without having to go to Charleston and back. That saves 400 miles, that saves time, that saves money, and that's the way you prosper. And just last year, we opened up another port, this one on CSX, this one going across I-95 up at Dillon. And the same thing is happening up there now. It is just remarkable. Nobody else in the country has got a port like we have here in South Carolina. That's a great advantage. Our research universities, 3, Clemson, USC, and MUSC, they do something, they're strong. Individually, they're strong. Together, they're even stronger. But they do something that they don't do in other states. They are willing to collaborate and enter into research and development agreements with these companies that are coming here. One of the first things Samsung did when they came to Newberry last year was to enter into relationships for research and development with Carolina and Clemson. And because of that, because of what they're learning and speeding up their processes through research and development, they're able to prosper even more. They'll be able to withstand whatever happens with the tariffs and some of these other things. We can talk about that if you want to as well. But it's that research and development and that collaboration between academia and business that is a hallmark of the way we do it in South Carolina, and it's working. And we also have the best technical college system in the whole world. Wilbur Ross, U.S. Secretary of Labor, has said so many times. And ladies and gentlemen, that is really the key. There's a new kind of world out there where most of the jobs are those that will be filled, particularly in manufacturing and these other things, with students who go through the equivalent of our technical college system. I don't know what they call it in other states, but we have 16 of them. They usually call them community colleges. Well, we've stuck with the knitting, and we are teaching and training the young people to go into these jobs that did not exist 40 years ago. There's a whole new world, and there's a cultural adjustment that we have to make. It's a great thing to go to a 4-year school or to go on to graduate school and go on after that. But there are such jobs and such employment that require such skills and such determination, all of which can be learned, trained, and created in our technical college system. Nobody else has a technical college system like we do. And they collaborate with the universities, they collaborate with the high schools. We're helping to create all those sorts of collaborations. That's a great thing that we have. If we can keep our taxes low, get rid of the unnecessary regulations, watch the union participation. The union, really, if you go back in the history books, the union participation was born of certain things, but now it's a relic of the past. It has outlived its usefulness in most cases, certainly here in the South, in South Carolina. But that's one thing these companies look to. But let me tell you this, I've talked to so many of these people, so many that have come here and others that want to come here, that are planning on coming here. And I always ask them questions of what is it that you like the most? Is it these things I've mentioned? Is it the tax incentives? Is it the weather? Is it what is it that you like? And they say it is the people of South Carolina. They're different from other people. Said when the people, and these are the words they use, they say when the people of South Carolina, whether it's a worker, whether it's a business you're doing business with, vendors, suppliers, or whatever it is, even executives, is when they give you their word and shake your hand, you can count on it. They say South Carolina is a handshake state. You can count on it. There's Jim Hudson. You probably made a million deals without a contract. You can count on it. Y'all know what I'm talking. Everybody in the room is a part of that culture. So those are the things that we have going on in South Carolina. I'll finish with just a couple of examples. You remember the story about the Jumbo the elephant was at the circus. And the city slicker went in to look at Jumbo the elephant. And it was a huge elephant. And he noticed that he was tethered to a little tiny stake with a little tiny chain holding him there. And so the city slicker says to the ringmaster, "What in the world is this?" That elephant's so big, he just get up and walk off and not even notice that he's tethered by that little chain. And the ringmaster said, well, we put that on him when he was a baby and tried, he couldn't get loose. So now he doesn't try. So what I want to tell particularly the young people is that the sky's the limit in this state. You can go as far as you want to go. And we're right on the edge of, I think, the greatest prosperity we've ever had here, and we have to keep it going. So just a couple of examples. I remember Jim Barker, who was the president of Clemson a few years ago, said, and I quote, he said, I am tired. I think he may have said it here at the Rotary Club. I think it was here. He said, I am tired of hearing people say that South Carolina is a small, poor state and we can't do anything. He said, I never want to hear it again. It's not true. I don't want to hear it. Well, I agree with him. What I've seen, I know better. But listen to this. Here's your proof. Up at Clemson right now, there is I think the name of it is the Advanced Manufacturing Center. Anyway, it's a marvel. It looks like the space station. I bet there are not many people in this room that could work a single machine that's in that place. It's something out of the future. What do they do there? BMW, which is the largest manufacturing plant in the world, is in Greer, South Carolina. Largest in the world. And they produce a new vehicle every 61.7 seconds in Greer, South Carolina. So there's plenty for everybody in here if you want one. Well, what do? They send the vehicles over to this advanced manufacturing center in different states of construction. Sometimes they don't have the computers, electrical stuff, other times the drivetrain and all that. But they send it over there for them to be worked on and the people there to invent new things, let their imaginations run wild. Well, who's in there doing the thinking? You have PhDs from Clemson, professors. You have researchers and PhDs from BMW. They're all in a huge place. You have PhD candidates from Clemson. You have master's candidates. You have baccalaureate candidates. You have technical college candidates. And they're starting to bring the high school students in there now. All right there on that campus, working together. You have the people that are experienced, that know how to do things so far, and the young people who know no limits, as President Pastini says, and they're all working to invent new things. It is the only such place in the United States, according to Jim Clements, and I think he's right. It's probably the only such place in the world. Well, come on down to Columbia. As you leave here, go by the corner of Blossom and Assembly Street. Look up right catty-corner from the university, from the Coliseum, and you'll see the big blue IBM on the side of a university building. Well, what's in there? Well, of course, IBM is there. That is their National Data Analytics headquarters for North America, right there on that corner. They've been there for a couple of years. You also have the academic power of USC, and that's plenty. That's a lot of power to work with them. Well, what else is in there? Siemens, big company, worldwide, 2 years ago, gave $623 million, I think, worth of their most advanced analytical software to USC. So Siemens is there. Well, who else is there? Samsung is there. Samsung is one of the biggest companies in the world, as you know, they're in Newberry, I mentioned them a minute ago. And who else is there? The newest addition to that is a company called Yaskawa. That's a Japanese company. They make robots. And they are all there working shoulder to shoulder, just like up in the place I described in Clemson, in that building, and those right there around it, coming up with new ideas to take us on into the future. That is the only such place. It is a data transformation lab. It is the only such place in the world, right here in South Carolina. And there are going to be more of those as we go forward. So I say we have to understand that if we can do the things we need to do, if we don't mess it up, that we have a great, great future. And I'll finish by quoting, what was her name? I've forgotten the name. She was the head of the EPA, Chrissy Todd Whitman, governor of New Jersey for 8 years. We were at the Capital City Club years ago We were looking out those windows, y'all probably been up there, and you can see the university, you see the quadrangle, I mean, you see the horseshoe, you see all the green, it's just beautiful. You look at the football stadium, see the Congaree, the Broad and the Saluda, and all that green beyond it is just beautiful. And so we were talking about, she was gonna make a speech, I was in the audience, and we were talking there, and so and she was getting started, and I was telling her about what a great place South Carolina was, and all telling her, pointing out different things. And she says, yes, y'all really do have it all. She didn't say y'all, she said, yes, you all really do have it all. I just hope you don't mess it up. So we're not gonna mess it up. We gotta take care of the environment, our natural environment that the explorers talked about, and this business acumen and prosperity that we have. You don't balance those two. They're part of the same thing. They're part of the same process that'll take us to the top. So that's my story. I'm glad to have Peggy here with me. Appreciate you coming, and I'll be glad to answer any questions anybody has. Thank you. Coming back. How you wearing? Edie?
Yes, Governor. This is not your first term or first time in public service. I know you've served as U.S. Attorney and as Attorney General. What would you consider your most memorable or proud accomplishments in those two positions?
In those other ones?
Yes, sir.
I'd say in the U.S. Attorney's job, we put together a team that resulted in an investigation called Operation Jackpot that people have heard about. That was really where we ended up indicting, I think it was 4 international organizations bringing drugs. It was hashish and marijuana at the time. And we indicted 4 international organizations, convicted way over 100 people, and took a while to get them all, but we got them. And that was really the first such collaboration in the United States. That was part of Ronald Reagan's plan to coordinate all the law enforcement activities. So we had the FBI, DEA, Customs Patrol, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, Internal Revenue Service, Criminal Investigative Division, SLED, and I think that's all. That was everybody. Had them together, working in one room. Just like what I was talking about a little while ago in this academic and industrial stuff, and it worked like a charm. The great stories don't have enough time, but that was a great thing because it proved collaboration. As Attorney General, suing North Carolina when they were trying to steal our water out of the Catawba River, we had to take that straight to the Supreme Court. You know what they were doing? They were taking water out of the river. Listen up, Jim. They were taking the water out of the Catawba River and pumping it up on the hill to Kannapolis and Concord, North Carolina. And then instead of treating it and putting it back, they dumped it on the other side and went into the Yadkin Valley and came out somewhere else. That's one of those that flooded on us just a few months ago. So that was reducing the flow of water in the river. So the Catawba, we were having problems. So particularly if we had a drought. So we decided to go for it. And we brought a case in the original jurisdiction of the U.S. Supreme Court, which was advised against by most of the lawyers. They said that's a long shot, but we tried it. They took the case. We ended up settling it very successfully. That was important. But I guess one thing that I'm happy with is the criminal domestic violence program that we started. We discovered that there were not enough prosecutors to prosecute that case. Those cases are all over the place. Y'all know all the statistics are horrible statistics. But one thing we had to do was get prosecutors in the courtroom. Solicitors just didn't have enough. So I asked the private bar if they volunteered. We must have had about 40 lawyers that came forward. Had a big bunch of them at first, and that got the ball rolling. And so we trained them and certified them and deputized them and sent them into the courts to prosecute those cases. That is, to be the prosecutor. Typically, it's the law enforcement officer that prosecutes those cases. The best law enforcement officer in the world doesn't know the rules against hearsay and all that sort of stuff, and they're really not equipped to do the prosecution. And y'all know the statistics. Typically, a woman will be beaten 10 times before she calls the police. And then when she does, about half of them change their mind and don't want to go forward. And then of those who do go to court, some of them end up testifying out of fear and other circumstances for the defendant. And others go to court and then they have to wait for DUI cases, traffic cases, speeding cases. About that time, they got to leave because the babysitter's leaving or the ride's leaving, they got to go home. So those cases were just falling down. So Judge Lester Bates had pioneered the thing right here in Columbia. And he had what he called CDV court. And that meant it was only on certain days of every month, nothing but criminal domestic violence cases would be tried in those courts. And man, that changed everything. So we adopted that model, tried to spread it all over the state. We started with counties in Kershaw and Orangeburg and got them going, and then supplied the prosecutors through the program I mentioned. And it was working like a charm. The conviction rate went from about 30 to somewhere over 70%. And that's on my agenda to be sure that program continues. We also gave, we knew we had a problem on the internet with these sexual predators that go on the internet. I wouldn't recommend y'all know all about, actually see what they do because it'll make you sick, but I saw it when I went into the Attorney General's office because we had a group that was prosecuting them, but the problem was you got to catch them before you can prosecute them. And a lot of people, just like a lot of other things, they just don't want to talk about it. Well, what we did, we found there's a federal grant under which we could get some computers. So we got the computers and invited law enforcement around the state to participate in a program, a sexual predator program, where they would go on the internet and pretend to be children and to become targets for these predators. And by the time I left office, we convicted over 400 and something of them. But the bad news is they're still out there. The good news is that's one way to get them. But we have problems like that. We call them challenging problems, and they're serious. But there are ways to go after those people and stop them from doing those things. So I would say those, maybe the environmental grand jury, that was a good thing. I expanded the scope of the grand jury to financial crime. Y'all remember the Carolina investors and Home Gold thing where the company folded and over 1,000, I can't remember how many people lost something like $268 million. Well, we had no vehicle to investigate that. It's a white collar crime, so we got the grand jury. Matter of fact, it took about 2 weeks to get that done. We just inserted one word into the existing law on the state grand jury to be able to use the state grand jury's subpoena power to go after financial crimes. And we ended up indicting the 6 people responsible and convicted them all. There's a lot of work to do, but what I've learned is through collaboration and talking to people, you can find out more good ideas about how to do things, not only what the problems are, but how to fix them. And once you have the information, making decisions is easy once you have the facts. It's getting the facts is the hard part. Separating the fact from opinion. Yes. Well, arts is like the icing on the cake. In arts, you mean painting, acting, ballet, music. Those are the things that make life worth living, among others. And I think those are the sorts of things that we need to cherish and to promote at every opportunity. I would love to have more of the film industry coming here. If any of y'all ever see the Parks, Recreation, and Tourism pamphlet they have on scenes to use, have you seen that? I'll send some out here. I mean, it's something. I've just started myself when I interview these people who are talking, business leaders that are coming here and want to. The Commerce Department sends them all the details, all the facts on the various things that are available to them through the government. But now I'm starting to send them those pictures, because you look at those pictures of the marshes, the mountains, the oceans, and all of that stuff, and they won't go anywhere else if I can get that in their hands. So y'all, we're out of time. I thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here.
recognition today, the Columbia Rotary Club hereby recognizes Governor Henry Dargan McMaster as an esteemed member of this club since April 1st, 1982. In appreciation for your time, a $100 contribution has been made to the Rotary International Foundation to support Rotary's fight to eradicate polio from the earth. Thank you for being a part of Rotary's Countdown to History. Next week's program is Radinko Pavlovich from the Columbia Classical Ballet. Speaking of the arts, we're running a little over, so we will not sing, but have a great week, everybody.